But we talked about female gun buyers. Hey, what does a female need in a handgun? Oh, something tiny.
Why does it have to be different for a woman than a man?
Because Whiskey, Lead, and Steel, Feelings Hurt While You Wait, the official podcast of Aggressive Defensive Solutions. I'm Rick Sutton. Joining me today on the panel is Lee Curling, future governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Jeremy, I'm about to get out of the Navy, Phillips. Well, I mean, relatively, 3-4 years.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to stay 12. Stay 12?
Not particularly.
17.
17. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, I did 27. Don't be a sissy.
Only if there's a shooting war am I going to stick around past fucking 20.
All right, so.
Well, that China.
There is that chance.
There's that. I mean, very short shooting war.
3 years. 3 years for Z to do his thing, right?
Yeah. I'll burn that bridge when I get to it.
We'll be in the Ukraine by then.
It's just Ukraine, not the Ukraine. We learned that.
No, it's the Ukraine. It's the Crimea.
The thorn in the side of Putin.
The commie driving around in a lime green Fiero.
I should send him one.
Oh, he's got one.
Yeah.
He's probably got one that's got like gold inlay on the inside. Because I always envision Putin like that guy on the DirecTV commercial where he goes, opulence, I has it, but I also like savings the money. And then he's got like the little miniature giraffe that he kisses. Yeah, that guy. That's Putin. Tool bag. Anyway, we, as is often our case when we're dehydrated from running a shooting match, have gone slightly down the wabbit hole, as they say.
Fucking homeless rabbits.
Yeah, fuck them. So, here we are. So, one of the things that we want to talk about, we were kicking this idea around. So, W3 came out today. Shout out to them. Thanks a bunch for trusting us to your slightly rainy morning. They came out and they did a team shoot, which was pretty cool. So, all of the shooting was 2 people per team actually shooting at the same time, which is pretty dynamic. That's not something that you see in a lot of places.
15 teams.
15 teams.
Yep.
All of, and
29 ladies, because we had one that wasn't able to make it.
One short, yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
So,
thoughts and prayers to her. Hope she gets better soon. But they came out and then we had a good AAR. Everybody had a good time. And so among the things that we were talking at the AAR, we've kind of figured as we were talking after the match, they're commonalities. They're ubiquitous across the shooting world. It's not just this bunch of folks, but so often the time, based on what's going on in training, you don't always get to see different stuff. I mean, so the stuff that we typically see at Second Saturday Series is a little bit different than some of the stuff that we saw here, just because these folks that came out today, shout out to them, most of them are not typical competitive shooters.
Sure.
So competitive shooters typically fall into the same kind of things. It's like anything else.
I think one thing difference-wise is that with Second Saturday, you had to find us.
That's true.
Right? You had to make the conscious effort going, I'm going to go do a shooting competition. Whereas with W3, with this competition, the club put it on, encouraged members to come out. And it's a large club. I mean, they only had a subset there. So there are some differences because a lot of them have never considered doing
something like this.
Never considered doing competition. So therefore,
I think we've got a bunch of converts on this one, though.
Hopefully.
I think.
Oh, I think so.
There were a number of the number of the wanting to shoot outside in a different environment than the indoor range, being able to draw. Yeah, that was a huge number of ladies that was their takeaway of the positive thing for the day of just that change of venue and change of everything. So Okay.
So to that end, we're just going to talk about some of the stuff that we already hashed out with them, and just as a reminder to you out there, as you're thinking about this, or if you're not thinking about this, is one of those things that's turns on that light in the darkened room. So, Lee, what was one of the big things that you noticed today that was kind of a commonality?
Yeah, I think the way to start on that would be to talk about the stage that I ran.
Okay, yeah,
which
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
which is mine and yours. And
Yes.
as I told the ladies, it's really not mine and yours. It's yours and yours because it's mine is in my holster. Yours is going to be on the table. But anyway,
This is my safety.
This is my safety. The course of fire was that the shooters would draw their weapons before the buzzer, draw their unloaded weapons, put them in front of their partner with a magazine, and then at the buzzer, the shooters would pick up their partner's weapon, load it, and then engage the target with 6 rounds.
Yep.
Right, and one target was
12 yards.
12 and 7.
12 and 7
12.
yards close, and then 12 yards. Both of them were occluded with a hostage. The 7 yard basically had the head zone, and then a C and D on the side, and then the 12 yard had much more of the target available. But with that, right there was the initial with the team is needed to figure out, well, who's going to shoot 7, who's going to shoot at 12.
Problem solving.
Problem solving, from the get go. That seemed to go really well, right? I didn't have anybody as they were stepping up trying to figure out which target they were going to shoot at. They had all already made those decisions before they stepped up to the stage. But the commonality that I saw was, I think the vast majority of the shooters had not fired different guns. Yeah. Right. And I would ask, and when I had time, we typically went as the last stage of the groups. If I had a chance to talk to them, it was for the most part they had not fired anybody else's gun, or they'd fired a few rounds. And I know that W3 does do,
Fam fires.
well, yeah, they do
share your gun.
share
share your
they
gun
do a
night.
share your gun night, right, where you get to go shoot other people's guns, which is great. I think one of the worst things in our community today is the fact that you want to go get a gun, you can't go to a gun store and go, hey, can I shoot that? It's right.
Until you get to know somebody.
Yes, you can shoot that. You give me $560. Fill out this 4473.
Yep.
And then you can go to the range and you can shoot that gun. Right? You don't go buy a car without doing a test drive.
No.
Right?
I've used a similar analogy several times before I got married.
Can't trust a car mechanic that's only worked on one car.
That was right. Exactly right.
But the fact that they do a share your gun night is great, because it really allows them to get their hands on other guns and a chance to have some familiarity. But even when they do that, they're not. It's only a couple of rounds. I don't know that it's enough where you end up doing enough shooting for proficiency. But I think the iron sights, the pairs that we had, there's a pretty good across the board. The pairs had somebody with iron sights, somebody with a dot.
Yep, almost every time.
And it was interesting, because I did have one person who struggled greatly with a dot. It was like, well, I couldn't focus on the dot. Well, you don't focus on the dot, right? You actually look through the dot, right? You focus on the front sight.
Put the dot on what you're looking at.
Right. Yeah. You look. So there was I think it's fairly consistent. It was infamiliarity with systems that were different than the one you are currently shooting. I mean, one of the literal best team that I had fired that stage in just a hair over 10 seconds.
Yes.
Both of them had X5 320 X5 Legions. They just had different red dots on them.
Nice.
But they're the same, different manufacturer. One was a SIG, the other was a Hollow Sun. but the way they had them configured, it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
both of them picked up the gun, loaded it. I mean, as competitive as any two people you'll see out on the range, and they just crushed it.
Nice.
Right? I mean, it was between the two of them.
But they're not actually shooting different guns.
I was gonna say, right. Well, I was gonna say the point was right. So they threw one C out of the 12 rounds. They threw a C.
Yeah.
But again, they're not firing different guns.
Yeah.
They're not firing different guns.
Like everybody shooting service weapons.
So
M9's like my M9.
But as we talked about in the AR, my assessment on a lot of that is when you get back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. When you get into the fundamentals of marksmanship, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're only shooting a red dot, getting sucked into iron sights, if you haven't fired iron sights, that would be problematic. But I noticed one of the ladies who, was
looking for that dot.
She was chasing the dot because her gun, right, had iron sights on it. So I think along those lines, that was pretty much universal. That most of the ladies struggled when they got switched to a different gun.
Yeah.
Whether it was iron sights and the sights are different, right? This one has 3 dots. This one has a dot and a
U
and it's any number of those small things but a lot of it goes, I think, back to fundamentals. If you have the fundamentals of marksmanship, then we didn't make them reload.
Yeah.
So it's really about the trigger press.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the key thing that I think in the AR we tried to get away. We tried to take away from that was it's about the trigger press.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about those fundamentals. So anyway, I think that was kind of my big one from my stage. But Jeremy.
So a couple, absolutely. So the crowd today aren't the hardcore competitive shooters for the most part that we get at the second Saturday series. So as such, maybe not bringing the most competitive rigs out. And there was a lot, and we've always been a run what you brung type competition, but you had a lot more people bringing the subcompact concealed carries.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not familiar using them, are a little bit more difficult just because your controls are much narrower, your slide's a little bit thinner, has a little bit stouter of a recoil spring, a whole bunch of things. So a little bit of struggling with that. But again, if all you got's one gun, hey, bring it out and shoot it.
Yep.
Okay? So a little bit of struggling with that, but I don't want to stereotype, but we kind of talked about this in the AR of
That's kind of new.
I like the W3 crowd just like we all do, but we talked about female gun buyers. Jeff brought it up when he worked at Dick's and stuff like that. But hey, what does a female need in a handgun? Oh, something tiny. J-frame revolvers for a while.
Yeah.
The friggin' Kel-Tec P380s.
Yeah. Sky.
Why does it have to be different for a woman than a man? I mean,
Because generally speaking, women have smaller hands. Generally speaking.
When a guy comes in, he's not generally looking for the smallest pistol that he can find.
Quite the contrary.
Okay.
He drove up in his jacked up.
True.
He's-
He's looking for a Desert Eagle and an inside the waistband holster for it.
Gotcha.
Panic scary.
Yeah, exactly.
The flashlight. Tourniquet.
Yeah.
A bipod.
Two sides. Anyways.
And you can't trust the expert that goes with you because
Yeah.
we were teaching the Commonwealth
Yep.
attorneys and one of the assistant Commonwealth attorneys comes out with that
Bursa Thunder.
Yeah, it's tiny little 380, and she could not fire that for anything. Could not get it to cycle because it was too small, too snappy. And it was the expert the expert that went with her said, this is what you need.
Yeah.
And she, she's not large at all. I mean, she was a small, petite woman, but she could have used a lot more than that gun. She swallowed that gun up as a small person. So,
But I mean, regardless of who's guilty, that significant other, gun store salesman, whatever, marketing, there were a lot of subcompacts.
Oh yeah.
And those are harder to control, shorter sight radius, more felt recoil, so on and so forth. So people did have more of a trying time with those.
Yeah.
There were a fair amount of subcompacts that had red dots, which we've talked about, the proliferation of red dots. Hey, cool, great, whatever. But you still have those problems with the subcompacts.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is interesting because I did talk to one of the ladies out there, and she was shooting one of her. She has a full size gun. She was shooting her partner's
There were a couple of those, yep.
and it was the tiny subcompact.
Yeah.
And she was shooting at 12 yards with it, and she did not have a bad group. She was off the target for half of the half of the rounds that she fired were off of the target. So I'm like, look, at 12 yards, you've got
2-inch sight radius.
You've got three of your 6 are right on the edge of the target, but they're within 3 inches of one another. I was like, those 3 weren't bad, and being on the edge, the other 3 were probably the
other part of that circle.
Other part of that 3-inch circle. It's like that's not bad, and to be quite honest, that's pushing that gun with those. I believe that gun had the integral kind of fixed, sights that kind of the inline groove cut
into the top of the slide.
And it's like
reduce snag.
There's not much you can do with that. That thing is a point and shoot, and
point, shoot, and pray.
Shoot and pray. But go ahead. I do have some thoughts, but I'll let you go ahead and finish that.
No, absolutely. But I mean, as much as a pistol is a compromise in portability and effectiveness, your subcompact takes that a step further. Reduce magazine capacity, reduce sight radius, reduced weight,
reduce velocity.
Velocity, absolutely. But as such, you get something that is much easier to conceal. Or heck, as Mac talked about, wish he could be here. Backup guns like. So saw more of those than we normally did.
Yeah.
Which, hey, great, whatever. Okay, bring what you got. But just understand that it is harder to manipulate. It is harder to make those longer shots on, and it is not as quick on the follow-ups. So not the best competition material, but absolutely bring it out, shoot it. Have a great time.
That's a competition idea. I mean, just to go down a rabbit hole a second, but doing a
belly gun competition,
a defensive carry competition where a subcompact, gotta be subcompact, because otherwise you're gonna have people that are doing appendix carry.
Not the Eric Blockade 10 millimeter.
They're gonna appendix carry their
Scorpion
tricked out their tricked out competition gun, but a subcompact, a moving subcompact.
I want to see Mac shoot his friggin' NAA revolver.
I think we could flesh this idea out, but I think this would be an interesting idea.
I like the idea. My thought on it is going to be, I don't know that it has to be subcontact. I get where you're going with that, but realistically, if we're going to do a legitimate defensive carry, then I think you've got to open it up to compacts. So
I would
something
say subcompact.
Something the size of a Glock,
but a
Glock 19 or smaller.
Subcompact, compact, but something that is truly a defensive carry gun, not a I went and
defensive situation applicable.
Yeah.
So like IDPA for real people.
So
Right.
I want to do that for stage guns. I want all the stage guns to be all the, gun store friggin' recommendations. Oh, here, take this Sky. Here, take this Smith & Wesson J-frame. Here, try this Keltec P380 with a 17-pound fucking trigger behind it.
Try this Canic.
Yeah.
All right. Any more on that?
The only other one I would
pull us back to the... I know I did it.
This is what happens when we tape after a match, pizza and brown liquor.
So the
Whiskey Lead and
this is
Steel.
horse-
We've had some whiskey.
This is
Yep.
Horse Soldier. Yeah.
no,
Yeah, horse
it is
soldier.
delicious.
Yeah.
But the only other one that I'll bring up is, I don't want to call it a step backward, but just an interesting shift of, hey, predominantly for most shooters over the last 10 years, it's been your standard friggin', safe action triggers.
Yeah.
Your Glocks, your Smiths,
striker fires,
your striker fires, absolutely. But now you're starting to see, for whatever reason, marketing or whatnot, a shift back towards the single actions. Your 2011s, your staccatos, your pick a manufacturer of a double stack 9mm.
1991s.
Yeah, your Browning freaking hammer fires.
Yeah.
But
Gun that was state of the art 110 years ago.
yes, and now everybody and their brother's making some double stack 9mm friggin' version of
1911.
them.
But those things can run fast.
They can.
They can run fast. They can run fast. The triggers are, you can go crazy light on the trigger.
Yeah.
I think scarily light on the trigger.
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I can see with what's happened in the gun industry and some of the changes, I can see why that's happened.
But with your strikers and your
I
safe
get it.
action, with some exceptions, most of them are sans manual safety.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, as soon as I take my finger off the trigger or take my friggin' thumb off the backstrap,
Right.
you shouldn't be able to fire it.
Right.
Your hammer fired ones, there is a manual safety that if
Yes.
you are following the manual of arms for that weapon, safety goes on, goes back in the holster.
Right.
If you are following the manual of arms for
Yes.
it, which there were a couple today. Obviously, they were new weapons, and I've seen this at other times too, so it's not a pick on the crowd today. I've seen other people of, okay, load, make ready. Magazine in, rack the slide, into the holster. That's a 7-ounce trigger there that you just put in the holster without a manual safety
I've seen
on.
guys carrying SIG hammered pistols, 228s, 226s, who will rack around in and put that gun in with the hammer back.
Yep, you're right.
They don't have
I
any
know,
external safety.
I know who you're talking about.
Now
there,
there's some. Well, we've got a guy. He hasn't shot with us a while. Dave Hayes. But David Hayes has one of those SIG 226s that is designed to be carried cocked and locked. So he does that, and he carries it with the safety
Right.
on.
Yeah.
But I've seen plenty of folks who didn't have that. It's like
Right.
having a Beretta
Yeah.
92 that they just rack it and leave the hammer back and stick it in
Right.
their holster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get where you're going with that.
But we've moved from, again, what I will categorize as the safe action striker fired back to, a single action lighter trigger, and people that are just either ignorant, unfamiliar, or whatever, that are just like, oh, well, I carried my Glock without a safety. This one, safety off, back in the holster. 7-ounce, 1.3 pound trigger, somewhere in that nature. Whole bunch of issues that just doesn't sit well with me. Again, not
Well,
picking
but
on the
it
crowd
was-
today, but
No. Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna when you draw your weapon and drive it to the target, if you're gonna stage your trigger on the way to the target and start pulling the trigger before you get a sight picture.
yeah, the other great thing about that John Moses Browning design, not a lot of staging of that trigger though.
No.
Nope.
No matter how you got that thing set up, there's
It's
not
like
a lot
Lego
of
bang.
not a lot of creep. There's not that get to that wall.
Bang.
Oh,
Touch bang.
There it is in the dirt,
Touch bang.
six inches in front of your right foot.
That's right.
So those are the ones that popped to the top of my mind today.
Yeah.
So what about you, Rick?
Well,
Sorry.
before we get to Rick on that, I do want to go back. You talk about those subcompacts. No. So this is one of those things that we discussed during the AR with W3, and that is the subcompact and fundamentals, right? And I know I mentioned fundamentals earlier with just switching guns, but if you're new, again, the group we had out here, not traditional. I'm going to go shoot a competition group.
Yeah.
Right. It is great to get them out here. I love every time they come out here.
Cool.
But because of that, they're not going in and you do have the ones that have invested in some tricked out competition guns, but the vast majority still are I'm buying a gun and I want to go learn to shoot it for defensive purposes. And they're the ones that have those they have those subcompact guns. What I think we try to relay to them today on some of that is it's much, much harder for you to see where you are from a fundamental standpoint when you've got that subcompact. If you can afford it and you can start with a full-size gun, you can learn those fundamentals. You can learn how to manage recoil. You can learn how to manage your sights better. You can learn all of the things that you need to learn to get good at shooting, and bring in that subcompact. Because let's face it, a more novice, I don't mean a complete novice, but a more novice to intermediate shooter with a subcompact is going to struggle at any real distance with a true defensive subcompact gun at 20 yards, right? Because it's not really designed for that. So at that point, you don't necessarily know, is it the gun? And we've said you can't outshoot your gun, but this is one of those cases where
I mean, you can outshoot a high point.
Yeah. The gun may very well be your limiting factor.
But also...
Or a limiting factor.
But also, it becomes a limiting factor for you to understand, is it the gun or is it me? Yeah. And as a brand new shooter, it's probably you. Right? But you don't know. And having a gun that manages better will help you work those intermediate steps.
Well, and we've talked about that from a training standpoint of, hey, what do we expect of you out of the student?
Yeah.
Bring something reliable that you are familiar with. Because if you're sitting there fighting equipment issues, you're not paying attention to learning.
Right.
So, to a point, the subcompact can fall into that category as well of, I'm struggling with this freaking, 13-pound trigger on this thing. And I'm focusing on that, and I'm not focusing on, hey, make sure you're breathing, make sure you're lining up your front sight. What front sight? It's melded into the freaking slide because it's a no snag.
And again, we go back to that burst of thunder, right, where we eventually took the gun away from her
and loaned her something else. We
loaned her one of our loaner guns because she just wasn't. She wasn't able to focus out of what she needed out of a class because she was fighting the gun. And I think that's kind of my point with that is that as a new shooter, that first gun, if the first gun, likely the subcompact is not your best choice. Right?
No. It's like going,
the subcompact's better than no gun.
I got to go buy me a car. I need to learn how to drive, so I'll buy a Ferrari 308.
Right.
Probably not. Probably that's not a good idea. Yeah. Probably buy something with an automatic transmission and is robust and forgiving. Get a Gran Torino.
Get a decent mid-grade full-size gun. Learn those fundamentals.
Compact.
Yeah.
Get those fundamentals locked in, and then decide what you want to do for a defensive carry. Right. And that's
medium to full size.
Yeah.
Your carry models, the
Glock
320
Glock
carry,
Smiths.
your Glock 19, your
Smith M&P.
whatever. Yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
you know, generally your carry model and above, much easier for somebody to learn on and
Yes.
learn the fundamentals,
Oh yeah.
and then try to translate them to your subcompact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
More mass for recoil reduction, the whole shebang.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's easier to manipulate
And,
everything
and,
else.
and easier for you to get your hand on.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense, it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
The snapping a
absolutely.
9mm that's 3/4 of an inch wide.
Yeah, you might as well be
Friggin-
shooting. Yeah. Shooting one of those tiny little things
Yeah.
is like shooting well,
It's like getting whacked in the friggin' web of your hand with a butter knife.
that's oddly specific. I was gonna say it's
I was
like
thinking-
it's
I
like
was thinking
shooting
the same thing.
a Walther PPK, or I had a lot of experience with shooting an aluminum framed SIG in 40 cal. Yeah.
Not a lot to soak up that
If
sucker.
that's your idea of a good time, then you probably don't get Novocaine when you have your teeth done. Fuck that. Carried one of those with Segis. And it is a nice little gun. But God damn.
Again, it's nice to carry, but it is
Yeah.
not something that, oh, hey,
Yeah, I
I'm going to
don't
go
wanna
out
go-
shooting today and have a great time. Let me bring this thing.
Yeah, I don't want to fire 500 rounds through that.
Well, and that is something that we've discussed in the past too. That I think is important.
Yeah.
Is those little guns as much of a snap as they have? You're right. You're not going to train as much on a gun that's beats you up.
The other thing
I'm
to
just
think
gonna-
about
it
with
just
that
beats
too,
you up, right?
and
Mhm.
I ended up talking about this with somebody at Mike's shop.
Mm-hmm.
Firearms performance enhancement. If you have a gun you want it better, take it to Mike. He's the guy. Talking to somebody, brought their gun in, and they're like, "Oh, I got to get all new springs for my 365 XL." I was like, "Well, how often do you shoot it?" "Yeah, shoot. It's my competition gun." I'm like, "What?" They go, "Oh yeah, I shoot competitions." I said, "Well, how many competitions do you shoot? Use 1 or 2 a month?" I'm like, "Well, how long you been doing that?" "Oh, about a year and a half." I'm like, "Oh, it's almost time for you to buy a new SIG 365. She goes, "What?" So, for those of you who don't know, most of your service style guns, your mid-size and up, general manufacturers, Smith & Wesson, Glock, HK, SIG, those guns are designed to be service guns. Those have a built-in, engineered into the mix, service life, generally speaking, 8 to 10,000 rounds. Those guns are designed to run that long and then either be rebuilt or scrapped. Most of your defensive guns, most of your subcompacts, your 365s and your micro Rugers and your tiny little Skimbers and all those, they're not designed for that level of use. They're designed for you to take them out, make sure that they're accurate, shoot them from time to time to make sure that you still know how to operate them. But other than that, they have a built-in shelf life, lifespan, somewhere around 5,000 rounds on average. They're just
That's
not.
a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, that's at that stage of the game, you're starting to wear out the metal that's on there
Mhm.
because the metal is so small and the tolerances are tight. Because that's what you got to do to make them small and make them light. So understand that. That's the other aspect of this. You know, we talk about this all the time. Make sure that you're buying the right tool for what it is that you're talking about. If you are learning to shoot, it's like learning to drive. You should not go learn to drive in a Ferrari. You should learn to drive in something a little more forgiving, a little more robust. You probably don't want to go out and buy yourself a Kimber Ultra Micro 1911 to learn to shoot on. A, it's expensive, and B, it's not designed to take the abuse that you're going to have to give it as you're learning to shoot the gun. So bear that in mind.
Go learn
So-
to drive that Fiero.
That's right. Get you a Fiero, an overdrive, turbo Fiero, twin turbo Fiero, lime green, with the "I love communism" sticker on it. Anyway, so
So now that we've
I'll
beaten
take-
subcompacts to death,
now
Nice.
that we're going to start getting hate mail from all the companies that we actually like, who make really good guns. Hey,
So, but you carry a subcompact.
I do, but
I carry
in the
subcompact.
summertime. In the summertime, I carry a 365 XL,
Yes.
and then once it gets a little cooler, right about now, I switch over to my SIG 320 Compact,
Mm-hmm.
which I like very much.
Right.
Which I must like very much because I don't carry my M&P as much as I used to. And this will break Adrian's heart to hear. I very rarely carry, other than for training purposes and demo purposes, my USP. And I never thought I'd say that
Mm-hmm.
because that was, but whatever.
It was, yeah.
That's my Shelby Cobra of a handgun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what you got?
what I saw today. So the stage I was working today was Be Sure, and that was a relay race. And you had 4 plates on a tray, and each shooter had a maximum of 4 rounds that they could fire. And you only got to fire 1 round at a time. So you ran 8 yards, drew your pistol, you got to shoot 1 round. If you knocked the plate over, great. If not, too bad. You holster up, you run back, you tag your partner, and you come back. There's 4 plates. We got to get all 4 plates knocked over. Each shooter only gets a total of 4 rounds. So you get 8 rounds to move 4 plates. So oftentimes what happens when you get introduced to something new and stressful is sometimes the wheels come off the bus. It's not a bad thing, but if all the training that you get to do and all the shooting that you get to do is at a static position, at a range, in a booth where you don't have to draw a weapon, you don't have to do anything else, this happens all the time. We see stuff come out of the woodwork where we go, what was that all about? And they go, I don't even know. One of the things that is common is people will run up or move up to the stage, they'll get where they got to get, and then they'll draw their weapon, and it's the only time they do it that day, they squat.
Mm-hmm.
They squat. And then they stand back up and put their gun back up. And you ask me, why do they go? I have no idea. And I go, well,
What did I do?
I did what? Yeah,
I did
exactly.
what?
So,
Mhm.
so there is that. So one of the things to know about that is when you're doing your training, when you encounter new things and you get a little bit of stress, you have a tendency to do things that you didn't plan to do. We've talked about that in the past, about moving the gun out of the workstation, all that. So, but that's a commonality. You see that across the board, except for the folks who showed up who are, and we've got some who are competitive shooters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. Just understand it. And again, we talked about this in the AR with them.
Mhm.
Shoot with somebody, so somebody go, hey, did you know that you do that? And they go, oh, no. And then you prevent yourself from developing a bad habit. And then the other aspect of this, and again, this is universal, and this does not matter what physical shape you're in. I don't care if you are a marathon runner or if you are a championship Oreo eater like I am. Okay?
Oreos.
Oreos are so good.
We heard that story earlier.
But, yeah. So,
Oreo is not a sponsor of this podcast.
but they should be. So, if you if you normally go to the range and you stand static and you shoot, and you're a gym rat, or you're not a gym rat, and then you go and a stage involves moving at all, either at the walk, at the trot, or running, your heart rate's going to come up. If for no other reason than you've got an adrenaline dump because this is so weird.
Mhm.
So the result of that is your heart rate's going to go up, your breathing's going to change. So your physicality does come into play. As we've said before on other podcasts, the better physical shape you're in, the better you handle stress, and then the easier it is to do. If you are used to picking up 50-pound bags of horse feed, then picking up a 10-pound bag of rocks on the range as part of the drill is not going to be a big problem. But if the heaviest thing you pick up over the course of the day is your mouse and your coffee, you got to take that into account. But in either case, movement and intellectual and physical stress can really become a great leveler on the field. And it doesn't take a lot to improve that. Whatever it is that you do for a living or don't do for a living, if you're retired like me, get up and move around. Get yourself, do something. If you do something every day that causes you to get out of breath, you'll find that sooner or later it takes a lot more to get you out of breath.
You'll be running 20 miles.
And I'm not running 20 miles.
I was going to say, next thing you know, you're running friggin' 10 milers and
No.
fucking ultra marathons and
No.
shit like that.
I will hold my breath and swim to get my heart rate up. I'm not running. I run from one point of cover to the next. But yeah, so I mean,
Masochist.
but you know, like I said, everybody I watched today managed it well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
nobody got to the box and was double over puking,
Yeah.
right? But
Never
when
bring
they
up
got
the
there,
oxygen.
you got there and you go, okay, your heart rate's up. You got to deal with these things, and stress inoculation is all part of it. So, and that all comes back to the physicality of it. And it's, again, shooting a gun is a physical thing anyway.
Right.
You know, you're moving a 2-pound piece of steel around. So,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, I say this every time I talk to these folks, they were just a pleasure to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the folks who were competitive, and I've shot in competitions all over the country, and you know, you get that guy who you don't want to talk to you because I'm here to compete. These people are paying the ass.
I'm in my little chi bubble.
I'm getting in my zone.
Don't talk to
Don't
me
break my
because you'll
zone.
break mine.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
But these folks, the W3 crowd, man, they come out. They have a great time. They absorb any information that you give them. They're always looking to get new stuff. They're always paying attention. It's just an absolute pleasure, and I'm just glad that they like us enough that they trust us to spend their Saturday with us. I had a good time. But yeah, that was about it for me. And again, like we've said, everything that we talked about from a management of the weapons process, it's ubiquitous. I don't care who you are. If you just started carrying a gun for defensive purposes, or you started taking classes because you think you want to carry a gun for defensive purposes, what we had to say is applicable. If you are a tier 1 operator with FBI HRT, dun dun dun, all of what we said is absolutely applicable.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah. Anything else other than
One of our favorite regulars shoots a tricked out 365 XL.
Who?
Our favorites.
we have a lot of favorites.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
Well, I'm stumped, but that is probably more to do with Horse Soldier whiskey. Tell us about Horse Soldier whiskey. That's good stuff.
Shit's delicious.
For some reason, they're not a sponsor to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel. I don't understand why. I mean, we're over here drinking your liquor, son.
Goes great on pumpkin spice Cheerios.
You are the ultimate white girl. Pumpkin spice Cheerios. Jesus.
I just
Mary
found out
Jo.
about those from somebody in my office this week, and I was like, what the hell?
How's that?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Also not a sponsor of the channel.
No. So, I mean, quite honestly, if you're out there in the interwebs land and you are affiliated with, you know, Horse Soldier, we have Horse Soldier stuff right there. We have Horse Soldier stuff right here. And Oreos. We all like Oreos. Who else do we want as a sponsor? Rolex. Rolex could be the official timepiece of Whiskey, Lead, and Steel. Feelings hurt while you wait. I mean, if you get one that will talk to Lee's computer because he's all hung up on his smartwatch.
I want Alpo to sponsor us.
Does Alpo even exist anymore?
No idea. Meow Mix, maybe.
Oh, you know who we should get as a sponsor? Dinty Moore Stew.
There you go.
Yeah. Boy, didn't we just age ourselves with that reference.
Before the pull top cans.
Good time. You got to get old John Wayne out. That's good stuff right there. That's a great idea. Hey, marketing people. Amy. You're a
The laugh from off camera.
Marketing people. I think it's Jared.
Now, let's be clear. How old is Jared's very nice young lady girlfriend?
21,
Again, how old is Jared?
24.
Okay, Jared's 24. He has a very nice 21-year-old girlfriend. He is not interested in marketing for this pack of boomers sitting behind the table. He has way better things on his mind. Like buying horses and taking horseback riding lessons.
And not getting one horse.
Of
but
course
now
not.
2 horses.
Poor Jared.
Oh,
For those of you
oh.
who don't know, Jared found himself a horse girl, which means that now Jared is inexplicably tied to horses for the rest of his existence.
And he just bought a truck
Of course,
so he can pull
a horse
a
trailer.
horse trailer.
So you need to get that Jeep on the road for somebody.
Yeah, you made me a good deal on that Jeep. I mean, if it'll stop. If it'll run and it'll stop, I'm interested in buying it.
It'll run. It won't stop right now.
That's it.
I gotta do something with the brakes. So yeah.
Yes, you do got to do something with the brakes. They're important.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about horse soldier whiskey.
we were-
How tasty it
We were
is.
trying to wrap this podcast up.
Had some
and,
Oreos.
and then somebody started going down this rabbit hole of trying to get a horse soldier to
You
sponsor.
said that like it's a bad idea?
I didn't say it's like a.
I would be happy to put horse soldier whiskey, a bottle of it right here, or at least a portion of a bottle of it.
because there wouldn't be a whole
It
bottle.
would be a whole bottle.
Because if there's a bottle there,
It ain't gonna be a hole.
No, not in this crowd.
yeah, normally it's water, but not today.
That's because Lee's normally healthy.
I only have to run 15 miles tomorrow.
Is somebody
don't
pointing a gun at you?
Have to.
If nobody is threatening you with
You're-
physical violence.
So
I don't think you understand the meaning of have to.
Yeah, I don't think that word means what you think that word means.
So it is quite funny that I had a discussion with my wife last night I can't believe that in the back of my mind I'm thinking I only have to run 15 miles tomorrow. Yeah.
If I ever utter those words, I want you to run me over.
I shoot you in the knee.
Then I don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, but after week after week of 20-mile runs, 15 is like, oh, that seems easy.
So
I'm gonna walk
back,
away from that one.
back at the end of the 19th century, they started to develop a viable, continual, affordable, workable combustion engine, thus relieving horses of the need to carry us around. Several thousand years ago, after the creation of the saddle, we quit having to walk/run anywhere. Unless, of course, you're some kind of peasant. But you're obviously not a peasant because, peasants don't get to run to be the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
My normal punishment is 30 lashes. So if I give myself 50, 30 doesn't seem so bad.
There you go.
I'm just gonna go.
I only have to hit myself in the face
It
with a
wasn't
hammer
very-
twice.
It was only a few minutes ago that Rick mentioned physicality and moving.
There's
I'm just saying.
there's physicality and there's masochism.
Dude, look. I'll explain this to you. I know I don't have to explain this to you because you're in the naval service. And Lee was in the Army. So,
Camping doesn't
If you-
have to suck.
it's like, have you seen the meme? It's impossible to get to be unhappy while you're hiking. I'm like, that's bullshit. Yeah, that dude
That's
never went on a
absolute
rock
garbage.
home. But see, you can improve your cardio and all that good stuff by running like you do, right? Which is hot and sweaty. And everybody makes this face. That's the face I make when I run more than 100 yards. Or you can swim, which case you don't get hot and sweaty that you notice, and you still get the whole cardio thing, and you also get more resistance, and it doesn't beat your knees to shit. Just saying. Just saying.
I would rather run than swim.
Have you ever been hit by a car while swimming?
No.
Have you ever been run off the road by an idiot on a cell phone while swimming?
No.
Well, seems like the safety conscious thing to do. Just
Now that we've settled that debate.
We could have an entire podcast on my almost getting hit by dumbasses while running.
For the record, I have never been almost hit or run off the road by anybody in a lime green Fiero while swimming.
That's because you're in your pool.
Semantics, my friend. I never look. Nobody almost ran me over in a car while I was swimming in the ocean. course, then you got the whole Doc Bowman thing. Doc Bowman's like, you enter the water, you enter the food chain, somewhere in the middle. I'm not doing that shit.
You are nowhere near the top of the food chain.
Doc rocked me up. I was like, dude, I was like, hey man, I want to learn. And of course, Doc was on the parachute team for the Army.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dude, I want to learn to parachute. You seem like the guy to do it. Tell you what, you teach me to parachute, I'll teach you to scuba dive. Doc goes, I'm not getting in the water like that. That shit's dangerous. I was like, dude, you're a Green Beret. I thought you're badass. He goes, there's nothing in the sky that eats human beings. You enter the water, you enter the food chain somewhere in the middle. I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah.
Fish are dumb.
See, now we could have Doc on here, and then Doc could bring a tequila. Because Doc drinks tequila.
Oh, he's a tequila guy.
He's a tequila guy.
Tequila lead and steel?
Yeah. Tequila's kind of whiskey. It's like Mexican whiskey.
So I've noticed.
Vodka is Russian whiskey.
So I've noticed, having drank with some people of higher social stature than myself, that when you get to the upper end of the pyramid of liquors, whether it's vodka, whiskey, bourbon, tequila, or whatnot, they all start tasting the same, regardless of what they came from. Like, once you hit the $350+ a bottle friggin' thing, they all start tasting similar. There's distinct differences. You can still tell it's a tequila, but it's not Jose tequila.
Hang on, let me get this straight. So somebody would pay almost what you would buy a quality handgun for a bottle of liquor?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And higher.
Oh, absolutely.
You
When-
boys
when they-
clearly run with a different crowd than me.
When they come up to you and they're like, before you order this, I want to let you know, sir, this is $300 a pour.
I'm like, well, you didn't need that liver anyway. Stab you and move on. Well, did I tell you about Steve and Lisa opened a bottle of Springbank to introduce me to Scotch?
Once again,
I was like,
learning to drive off the Maserati.
I was like, so they told me, I was like,
hey,
I told
why
them,
don't you get in? Yeah, why don't you get in this race car?
yeah,
And I'm gonna show you why you want to drive.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they had.
You got your learner's permit. Let's
They
get
had
it
a bottle
Uh-huh.
of 24-year-old Springbank that they had gotten in '84.
Ooh.
It was 24 then.
Mm-hmm.
So they put on that. It was fantastic.
All right.
And they were like,
Imagine,
yeah.
like-
And then they told me, I was like, A, thank you, and B, don't ever do that again.
No.
Yeah, that's a complete waste. That is pearls before swine.
Yeah.
Clearly, because I don't have the palate to appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I'm a jarhead. I drink Jim Beam.
Yeah, that was like kissing God on the mouth.
I don't know about all that, but I will say that I am convinced that biting a fresh off the rack while it's still hot donut from Krispy Kreme must be what it's like to bite an angel's wing.
Imagine what those would taste like deep fried.
There you go. Krispy Kreme should be there.
Forget bat wings and beer.
Right? Angel wings. Feel like biting Bo-Katan on the shoulder.
Whiskey, lead, and steel would make a good name for a restaurant.
Actually, it would, but I'm not getting into restaurant business because they all fail. Because they're run by people who want to be artists, not by people who want to make money.
True.
I'm kind of a capitalist.
I'm not a communist.
I mean, I don't. Okay, so once again, we have borrowed down subterranean on the gopher hole, and Amy is being the responsible adult because she has not been drinking tasty horse shoulder whiskey. And so she's telling us we need to wrap this up. So, anything to add? As always, it's been a hoot. Hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. I don't know that you did, though. We'll see you next week. Be safe out there.
Bringing the subcompact concealed carries,
Yeah.
which, if you're not familiar using them, are a little bit more difficult just because your controls are much narrower, your slide's a little bit thinner, has a little bit stouter of a recoil spring, a whole bunch of things. So a little bit of struggling with that. But again, if all you got's one gun, hey, bring it out and shoot it.
Yep.
Okay.